Welcome, everybody. We are going to continue the chapter that we were learning last week. And we're going to speak about the Shvatim. And we just need to find where that was exactly. But I'm going to share the screen more. Oh, how do I share the screen? Share screen. Share. Okay, let's take this out of here. Okay, Rabbi Smith, where do you know where it is? How many lines up?
Yes, it's right from there. It's 7 lines from the top. 1, 2, 3. Don't move it where it was before. Okay, whatever. From where it is right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines.
Oh, okay, great. Now, so this requires a little bit of an introduction. The Shvatim, Yaakov Avinu was going to pass away, and he wanted to tell them about the Geula, and the Shekhinah left him, and he thought maybe one of you are not properly, not keeping Torah properly. So why did the Shekhinah leave me? And they said to their father, whose name was Israel, sometimes Yaakov, sometimes Israel. They said, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one." In other words, we follow your belief, because basically that's the foundation of everything. And he answered them, "Blessed, blessed is the name of his honor, of his kingship forever and ever." In other words, he answered, he basically was a big relief that they said that to him. But there's also a Kabbalistic meaning behind what they were saying. This is what the Shvatim, that they come spiritually from the 6 sides of Bria. What do we mean by side?
Just want to make sure to explain how the Shvatim relate, the word Shvatim, what it means, and how it relates to the sons of Jacob.
So yes, so Shvatim means, because basically each one of the sons of Jacob became a tribe. So this is the tribes. So all 12 tribes. So all 12 tribes said to their father, and their spiritual source is the Vav Ksavis the Bria, are the 6 corners of Bria. No, 6 sides of Bria. If you're inside a cube, you're going to have 6 walls in front, right, left, front, back, up, and down, 6. But they belonged to those that the source of space, the way it is in the world of Bria, which is the first level, which is God's thought. So basically, it's virtual space. And Yaakov was Baal Olam Atzilus. He was a man of Atzilus. In other words, when he came, he represented the embodiment of Atzilus. In other words, higher than the creation. And they said to him, "Kishen she'ein belibcha elecha," just like in your heart there's only one, nothing else exists. This is the higher oneness, the Atzilus of the world of Atzilus. What is the higher oneness? We've been saying this over and over. That in Atzilus, he and his, like the various energies, in other words, the various emotions and the vessels of those energies, in other words, what's going to limit those emotions, are all one, because the limit of the emotion is energy the same like the emotion. So therefore, the whole concept of the higher oneness is how are these all energies really not something that add or subtract from God? And the answer is because the energy and the limits on the energy, it's all one. It's all one. Just like I could have different emotions, all me. It's me. So too, that's the way it's in Atzilus. But over there, it's very recognizable that even the garmui, the limits. In other words, you have a cup and you have you have a water and you have the cup. The garmui is the vessel that limits the cup. So, I mean, I brought once this metaphor that if you're using high frequency radio waves, you can bounce it during the daytime from the stratosphere. In other words, it's energy bouncing off energy. It's high frequency radio waves that are making so many like loops per second, and they hit the sky when it's charged up with the light of the sun, and they bounce back down and many miles away, and perhaps even over the pond, even into Europe, it's possible to have a radio communication with your radio. So we see that the energy, it's actually energy that's making that's behaving like a cup, that's limiting the frequency. So we're saying God in Atzilus, it's all one, it's all God. And that was obviously somebody who lives in that reality of Atzilus, who embodies, who's larger than life, who is larger than life, higher than creation. That's what he holds in his heart. So kach ein belibenu bebechinas malchus d'Atzilus bebria. So too in us, even though we, your children, your 12 children, that we are really an embodiment of the expression of Atzilus in the world of Bria already, we are like in compared to us to you is like the difference between the creator and the creations. So we're in the world of Bria, Ella Yehudatata, Ella Achad, we only have oneness. And by one, in our reality of oneness, it's Yehudatata, it's the lower oneness, because we're already dealing with a creation. In other words, God's audible conscious thought is a creation. But we still recognize that it's only one. There's only one God exists. Only one. Only God exists. Period. V'hainu, just like you have thoughts in your brain, it doesn't make there's more of you. It's all really your own brain. V'hainu havayu echad u'shmei echad, and this is the meaning. This is the meaning between. Why do we say God will be one and his name will be one? Well, it's really the higher oneness and the lower oneness. Are we speaking in the world of Atzilus? We're saying God will be one. God will be considered, will be recognized as one, and his name will be considered as one, means the lower oneness. How in the creation there's really nothing else besides him. And that's what we say at the end of every day's prayers. The end of every day's prayers is, and when Mashiach comes, God's name, God will be one, his name will be one. In other words, whether we're speaking in the higher oneness, on the lower oneness, the people will know both of them. Yadua, and this is a well-known thing. But they're chlal. And in general, when we're looking at the higher oneness and the lower oneness, nikra havaya va'adnai. In a general way, when we're looking at the bigger picture, it is havaya va'adnai. So Havaya represents God's name as he's that brings everything into existence, and Adnai means my master. So that's already, so this higher than creation is Havaya, and a master is already a master of something. That's the lower oneness. Or Havaya velikim, or Havaya and the Almighty. So when we say the Almighty, so in other words, the one that brings everything into existence is the higher oneness, Velikim, and the Almighty is already different energies. It's already the lower oneness. Here's another one, and this is really the essential theme in all of Torah mitzvahs. God surrounds. It's like higher from all the worlds, and he's also in an internal. He's also internally inside everything, each according to its energy needs. So there's a general energy, which is like beyond everything. And there's mamala kolamim, have the energy inside everything. Just imagine, just recognize the fact there's really atomic energy everywhere. Even on your water, you have hydrogen, and the hydrogen you have the idea of a hydrogen bomb. There's atomic energy inside your cup of water, but that's like sevel kolamim. It's there, but it's not active. It's not activated. Mamal kolamim is the energy inside everything that's activated and tangible, and you feel it. The fact that you're able to make cognitive processing in your brain is mamal kolamim. The fact that you can have respiratory and emotions in your lungs and heart is mamal kolamim. The fact that in your stomach is digestion is it's a different type of energy. That's mamal kolamim. And also the people that come from Atzilus, that they're an embodiment of Atzilus larger than life, these are neshamas of Ma, the souls that are really are extension from the name of God, which is called Ma, which is really a 45, which represents the way you spell God's name in a way that everything's an experience of God, the name of Ma, Uban. And Ban is the other way of spelling the God's name, Yud Ke Vav Ke. We've spoken about this many times, and when you spell it, the different spelling that we use, it ends up being 52, and that is more the theme of that revelation of God is to use the lower oneness, how the world already exists. Shema Bazar, the name of God, which is called 45, is really an embodiment of Zah, of the 7 emotions of the world of Atzilus, V'Shem Ban, the name of, V'Shem Ban, and the name of Ban, 52, the Malchus is an embodiment of the representation of God's expression. When there's an expression, it's already a creation. That's why it's low oneness. Miloi umiloi de miloi. So now what you could do is you can expand the code. Because when you write out the name of God, Yud K Vav K, four letters, but if you write out the Yud, it's going to be Yud Vav Dalet. That's called a miloi. What's hidden inside it becomes revealed. I've noticed in sitting in meetings with computer people, they speak a funny language because everything's acronyms, and the acronyms change as new technologies, and as I refer to a technology, they don't give it the full name, they just give it the acronym. But if somebody, an outsider, doesn't understand them, you ask them, what did you just say? Or you start Googling what these acronyms are in computer speak. So you get the whole sentence that's called a milli. The whole sentence is now revealed if you Google the acronym that these computer programmers are using. But there's also milli de milli. Imagine if we go another step, that those hidden letters, if we spell those out fully, so we're going to get a long name of God. But it actually is a program, because then you have different choices of spelling things in different ways. And then you have a variety, then you have like a language. So the name of God becomes a language and a programming language. And that's how the world is really created. Everything's created from names of God in various miluim, and it becomes a programming code. It becomes a code of reality. And now he's going to explain the whole idea of expanding words and expanding the code. Milu means what fills it, right? How do you when you take the letter Yud and you complete it with the the Vav Dalet, it's really giving you some sort of meaning and definition to the Yud. And I spoke in a different program, our program of learning how to read Lashon HaKodesh, the Holy Tongue, and we said that there's a prophecy that in the future all the nations will return to the original language. that was spoken in Babylon before the Tower of Babel, that made a Bilbo that mixed all the languages. So there was original language, and what's going to happen is it's going to bring all the people to the oneness of God, and it also is going to create a peace, because the reason why there's differences between nations is because there's cultural differences in different ways, that people, they understand words differently in nuanced ways. They can't see eye to eye. But in Lashon HaKodesh, the actual letters give you the definition of the word. And that's what he's saying over here, that the letters can give you, explain to you the definition of the word. So Yud is the smallest letter, but when you spell it out, it's spelled with a Vav and a Daled. And what the Vav represents is the idea of an elevator. It's like a line taking things down. So Yud is like the dot, but then you want to deliver that dot, and it's a line taking it down. And then the Daled has length and width. So now let's create area with it, and that's what the Daled is. So the Yud is all about taking a dot, but not leaving it as a dot, but then delivering it to somebody who doesn't understand, and then broadening it. And that's what the Daled represents. So that's the type of energy. It's just representing a code of how energy is going to function. So when you write Yud and then you explain how the Yud is going to function, you're already having a definition of behavior. So now what comes in a second level, when you try to expand the code further, and now you want to expand the Vav, you're actually starting to get choices now of how you could do this, because Vav, you could spell Vav, Aleph, Vav, you can spell Vav, Yud, Vav, and you can spell Vav, Vav. You have 3 ways of being able to spell. So now, even though God's name is only 4 letters, but you now have choices, and that creates a code, and that becomes the source code of all of creation. Like you have DNA is a code of how the body functions, but there's a code of reality, how the reality functions. So, and you're going to spell Vav Daled. Daled, I think there's only one way of spelling it, Daled, Lamed, Yud, Taf. But each one of those letters has a meaning of how the energy is moving and processing. Now you can keep on going and expanding. So you can actually start having, from one name of God, a whole big code. And basically what that means is, it's basically the movement and a chain order of expansion of this energy, haba derech prat, who's now going in very prat, the prat, yesem in a helam legilu. In other words, one detail after another, little part starts becoming coming from the hiddenness to revealedness, the gilui ad gilui prat the prat, the gilui ad gilui prat the prat hayesach, until the last details start to communicate by expanding the code. Before like it's explained in another place, binyan veidaber gimel alafim mashal. It says in another place how King Solomon said 3,000 metaphors. Now, each 1,000 metaphor brought down the idea from the world of Bria to the world of Yetzirah, and from the world of Yetzirah to the world of Atziyah. And Shein Kamei Ribu Tzrufim Abayim Beishtashlus Ze Al Ze Pnimi Lezeh. So these metaphors were actually directly connected one to another. And one metaphor was chain linked to the next metaphor, and one was a deeper one to the other one. Commercial or martial. In other words, it's a metaphor to understand the next metaphor, and then the next metaphor is a metaphor to understand the next metaphor. Shir mishtalshel v'yered ki mashal shel animshal zet tzarach liyes mashal. In other words, in order to be able to understand the metaphor of the lesson, even the metaphor needs its own metaphor to understand that metaphor. Like it's written in the Zera, so the similar idea, the idea of milui, of expanding the code of God's name, which now reveal itself minahelam keprata yetze minakal, like a part that comes out of a holistic picture. Yesh milui behepach, but there's also the idea of code in the other way, that it actually hides, which is, that's what the word code means. Shenis alam behelam tachelam, that it hides in one hiding into another hiding. Like it's written in another place. And this is the idea of clothes that are a curtain. In other words, the curtain covers up. So you can also, so basically it's basically sort of like encryption and decryption. Not exactly like that. It doesn't get disorganized. Encryption and this decryption is more like the idea of Shviras HaKelim. But what's happening over here just gets coded, gets hidden. Another layer gets hidden further and further. And that's the idea of a curtain which hides things. And that's Vidal, and this is enough for the understanding.
Thank you, Rabbi Chirik. Okay.
Yeah, we should stop there for this week.